All right, guys. So yesterday we talked about how the South has been winning some battles. The South starts off, and they pretty much dominate the beginning of the American Civil War. But things start to change as the war progresses. The blockade, which is shown by this political cartoon right here, with the Anaconda Plan, slowly starts to squeeze the South. It's squeezing the life out of the South. Economics start to go down. Foreign support starts to die off. And that experience advantage that the South had is going away. The South has also lost control of the Mississippi River because of the Anaconda Plan. Transport has been disrupted. So the entire South is starting to suffer a little bit now in the war. The most effective person in the western part of the Civil War was Ulysses S. Grant. Now, the western part of the Civil War is the area that deals with the Mississippi River. Grant was the opposite of McClellan. Now, we talked about McClellan yesterday too, about how McClellan always found a way to lose even when he won. He always hesitated. He wasn't ever sure of himself. Grant is the opposite of that. Grant was very aggressive. As Lincoln said himself, "I can't spare the man. He fights." In 1862, Grant moves to take two forts in Tennessee, Fort Henry and then Fort Donelson. When Grant was asked under what terms they could surrender, Grant's response to the forts was no terms except for unconditional and immediate. That means you do what I say when I say it. That's the only way I will accept your surrender. Otherwise, we'll just keep fighting and eventually you'll end up dead. By the end of March, control of Tennessee had been given to the North. The North has taken over Tennessee, which was key to the South. Had lots of railroads. So the South has now lost all of that railroads, all of the rivers for transport. They've lost all of that in Tennessee. Grant moves on towards the Mississippi River and stops to gain reinforcements, but he didn't know that Confederate troops were near a creek at a place called Shiloh. On April 6, 1862, Grant is caught completely by surprise by Confederate troops, and he had to order his troops to hold the ground at all costs, waiting for reinforcements. During the night, reinforcements do arrive at the Battle of Shiloh. And the next day, in a counterattack, Grant is able to win. But it was too hard of a fought battle to go after the Confederates and chase them down. The Union Army now moves to take key positions along the Mississippi River, specifically New Orleans. The problem with taking New Orleans is that it's guarded by two forts to stop invasion from the Gulf of Mexico. So in order to go up the river, you actually have to pass by two forts, one on each side. David Farragut used a daring plan to capture New Orleans. His plan was simply sail as fast as you can up the river. Don't fight the forts, just sail right past them. Farragut did just that. Being constantly shelled as he passed, he does make it past. And on April 25th, 1863, he reaches New Orleans. New Orleans gives up without a fight. It didn't have any other defenses. Farragut continues making his way up the river, taking other key positions. The last city that is left is Vicksburg. Vicksburg, Mississippi. It is the last place on the Mississippi River that the North had to take before taking complete control of it. Grant decides to take a different approach. He decides to lay siege to Vicksburg. See, laying siege to something means it's kind of like a blockade, but it's on land. So you're not letting anything in, you're not letting anything out. He's cutting it off from reinforcements, he's cutting it off from supplies, and he's basically going to make the city starve until they surrender. So they're going to give up because of starvation. This little video that I'm going to show you will tell you a little bit about the siege of Vicksburg.
Gettysburg was was not the only disaster the Confederacy was to suffer during July of 1863. In the West, Grant had been trying to crush a major Confederate stronghold, the city of Vicksburg. The Confederate General Pemberton was in charge of the city's defense. He wrote to Jefferson Davis and said, "I intend to hold Vicksburg to the last. I conceive it to be the most important point in the Confederacy." Day and night for 6 weeks, General Grant's Union forces had rained a terrible storm of shot, shell, and mini bullets upon the city of Vicksburg. Inside, the city food was scarce, and people's nerves were raw from the ceaseless Union bombardment. On July 3rd, one citizen of Vicksburg wrote,
All right, listen to what this lady writes, what she's writing to her friends.
Provisions are so nearly gone. Martha says that rats are hanging dressed in the market with mule meat. There is nothing else.
So she said that rats are hanging dressed in the market with mule meat. There is nothing else. Food has become so scarce that the people inside Vicksburg are eating rats and mules. So things have become really bad. Not a horse was safe. All right, Gigi. So this is a picture right here. It's an actual can of horse meat. So Gigi's going to be very upset because remember the horse won. They're eating the horse now. So horses aren't safe. Send this one to the back. Dogs aren't safe. They were eating the dogs too. Cats aren't safe. And just like the lady in the letter said, that rats aren't safe to eat. So you got a rat being eaten right here. Because of that, towards the end of June, a group of soldiers sends the Confederate General Pemberton a letter saying, "The army is now ripe for mutiny unless it can be fed. If you can't feed us, you'd better surrender, as horrible as the idea is." They don't want to surrender, but they really don't have a choice. Pemberton surrenders on July 4th, 1863. The Western Confederate states of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana are now cut off from the whole rest of the Confederacy, from the whole rest of the South. All right, so make sure that you got your questions answered for this lesson. Your essential question for this lesson. So go back to it real quick. Your essential question: why was capturing the Mississippi River so important for the North? Think about what the Mississippi River does to the South. If we go over here to the map, Mississippi River runs right here. So if you do this, this is what taking the Mississippi River does to the South. You got Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. You got all the other southern states over there. Plus, what else are rivers used for? So they're used for all sorts of other things. All right, make sure you guys got your lessons done, and I will see you with another lesson in just a second.